Welcome along to Matchday Live as Leicester City travel to West London to face Chelsea in the Premier League. It is, of course, a 3 o'clock kickoff, so we've got all the build-up over the course of the next hour or so as Leicester travel to Stamford Bridge, knowing they've taken points off Chelsea in 5 of their last 7 visits. Before we go any further, let's get all of today's team news, starting with the Foxes, of course, who make 3 changes from last weekend's defeat to Southampton. Dropping out are Ndidi and Perez, who moved to the bench, and James Maddison, who misses out through injury. In come Buba Samari, Yuri Tielemans and Dennis Pratt. And this is how we think they'll line up. Danny Ward in goal, the same back 4 as last week. James Justin, Johnny Evans, Daniel Amati and Timothy Castagna. A midfield trio of Buba Samari, Kiernan Dewsbury Hall and Yuri Tielemans, with Harvey Barnes and Dennis Pratt supporting Jamie Vardy in attack. On the bench for the Foxes, there's the midweek penalty shootout hero Daniel Everson, Kaglar Soyuncu, Mark Albrighton, Kelechi Iheanacho, Ayose Perez, Patson Daka, Papi Mendy, Wilfred Ndidi and Luke Thomas. For the hosts, Chelsea, they make 1 change from their defeat at Elland Road last weekend, and it's an enforced one. Kalidou Koulibaly picks up a red card in that one, so Nathaniel Chalobah replaces him in the back 3. They line up with Edouard Mendy in goal, a back 3 of Chalobah, Silva and Reece James, with the 2 fullbacks, Cucurella and Ruben Loftus-Cheek. Conor Gallagher keeps his place in midfield with that injury to N'Golo Kante, with Jorginho alongside him. And then the front 3 is pretty interchangeable, really. Sterling, Havertz and Mount will rotate in those positions. On the bench for Chelsea, Kepa, Kovacic, Pulisic, Broja, Hudson-Odoi, Ben Chilwell, Hakim Ziyech, Azpilicueta and Ethan Ampadu. So they're today's teams, and welcome along to Matchday Live here on LCFC TV with me, Dan Bates. Matt Elliott joins me in the studio, and on Zoom, as you can see behind us, we've got Jerry Taggart as well. But I'll start with you, Matt, as you're here in the studio. Good afternoon. Are you hopeful of something positive today down at Chelsea?
Certainly hopeful, yeah. Not necessarily expectant. It's going to be a tough old trip down there, isn't it? As always, but can take consolation from that you've said there about the amount of points that Leicester have picked up in the capital there. And it's Chelsea against Chelsea. You've always felt Leicester have to be sort of at the top of their game and not hope that Chelsea underperform on the day, but not quite 100% at it, shall we say? A little bit like the cup final, where Leicester hung in there at times, rode their luck at times, but also showed enough quality within the game to go and win the ultimate prize. But then, only a matter of days later, wasn't it, at Stamford Bridge, you saw that despite winning the FA Cup, there still was and is that little bit of gulf between them. But it's broachable, isn't it, when Leicester play well enough? And it can be a big test today, though, isn't it? I mean, looking at the lineup, we'll probably speak about it a little bit more in due course, but with Maddison not being there and a couple of other big omissions as well, it's going to be a tough ask, that's for sure. But I wouldn't write Leicester off just yet. Absolutely
not. Jerry Taggart, welcome along to the show. As we've said on Zoom, you braved the trip down for the Stockport game in midweek, but you've decided Zoom is the way forward this afternoon. How are you today?
Yeah, good, Dan. Looking forward to the game. Yeah, I sort of go along with Matt there. You know, Maddison's going to be a big miss. He's been a proper bright spark this season for Leicester. Chelsea coming off, you know, the back of a disappointing result last week. They'll be hoping to bounce back. But you know, when you've just read those stats out about Leicester's performances down in London, then you know the players can take a little bit of confidence from the game against Stockport on Tuesday night. I thought they played well, even though it was a much changed side. So yeah, really looking forward to it. Nice to read some of the players' quotes as well, like, you know, Dewsbury Hall going there full of confidence, and that's exactly what Leicester need to do there today, is go to Stamford Bridge full of confidence and don't be overawed by the challenge.
Yeah, we've got a very busy hour coming up here on Matchday Live. Here's what we've got to get through. And firstly, we're going to look back at that penalty shootout heroics, particularly from Daniel Everson, as the Foxes made it through in the Carabao Cup. We'll hear from Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, as Jerry was just saying. He's full of confidence ahead of this trip down to West London. And we'll also take a look at today's hosts, who will be without that man on the touchline, Thomas Tuchel, serving a touchline ban for what happened with Antonio Conte after the draw at Stamford Bridge against Spurs a couple of weeks ago. Before we get into any of that, though, let's talk about today's team. We can get the Leicester team back on the screen for you. And Jerry, do you agree with how we've got it set up there from a Leicester point of view? It's quite hard to read what maybe Brendan Rodgers is thinking today.
Yeah, it's a difficult one, isn't it? You know, as I say, you're missing probably your star player over the last 3 games going into this one. And obviously, Wilfred Ndidi missing out today. I don't know why that is. Whether that's a form issue or, you know, an injury, not sure. But I don't see it changing too much, to be honest, Dan. I think you'll probably set up the same way. Obviously, Dennis Pratt coming in sort of, you know, could influence the way Brendan sets it up, but I think in the main, that 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3, whatever you want to call it, is probably Leicester's best formation. It's the one that Brendan sort of his go-to formation. So we'll just have to wait and see how it pans out, but it seems pretty straightforward to me.
Yep, it was 4 at the back a week ago against Southampton. It was 4 at the back in midweek as well, as the Foxes travelled up to Edgeley Park to face Stockport in the second round of the Carabao Cup. And it took penalties, but Leicester are through to the next round of the competition.
Leicester City, League Cup winners in 1964, in 1997 and in the year 2000. But in 2022, what does their League Cup campaign have in store as they contest this round 2 fixture against the Stockport County side, who are back in the Football League after an 11-year absence? There might be 4 divisions difference, but it certainly won't feel like it with the atmosphere here tonight. An opportunity to pick up a first win of the season for Brendan Rodgers' side. Iheanacho, Brighton again. Iheanacho lets the ball run through his legs towards the edge of the D. Good stuff, and Dennis Pratt is in here. Might be a chance. Cleared away off the 6-yard line. How did he shoot? Well, Stockport County survived there. I saw him shoot, but Pappy Mendy with a loose pass. Come here for Connor Evans. And Stockport trying to move the ball well. This is Callum Camps who hits it and forces a smart save out of Daniel Everson. Good save from the Danish goalkeeper. He's not had too much to do, if anything, tonight so far. Still it's Stockport in possession though. And here comes Crankshaw, and he's got a chance to shoot here, Crankshaw. And scrambling was Everson. It might just have scratched the outside of the post. In comes the delivery again to the edge of the box. Here's Castagna. And again, just working it well, Leicester City. Left-footed effort from Dewsbury Hall, fired it in, but it's well claimed by Jarosz. Needed to be either side of him, really, to cause problem. And here's Thomas now. Left-hand side, Barnes back to goal, gets the 1-2 from Iotse Perez. It comes out as far as Maddison. Good touch with his right. Maddison thinks about curling a shot. Maddison! Oh. And it's just wide of the right-hand post. Maddison. Now moved on for Tielemans, 25 yards out. He hits it, and it whizzes wide of the post. Flashes across the face of goal, swerving in towards that far corner. Five yards from goal here with Maddison. Left-hand apex of the box. He's thought about shooting here. He's going to try and take it on and find the angle. Maddison with his left. It's a driven shot. It's straight. It's central. And Jarosz tips it over his bar and into the Leicester fans behind. So it will be decided from 12 yards between Leicester City and Stockport County. It's Youri Tielemans. It's a short run up and hits it right-footed. And up against Everson, it's saved. It's beautifully saved by Daniel Everson. What's he got from 12 yards here? Madison. Oh, it's squeezed over the line, has it? It was well saved, but it's down and bounced over the line. Only just. No, wait. It's not gone over the line. Madison has missed. Stockport's second penalty on as a sub in regulation. And Everson saved again. Same side, same outcome. It's Barnes for Leicester City, and it's saved, but into the top corner. So Leicester do score through Harvey Barnes. Croasdale, that's calm as you like, strokes into the bottom corner. Everson dives the same way again. Exhales, hands on hips. Perez, he slashed it miles over the crossbar. He went for power, and he drove it way over the top. I think the referees told him to stop, and they continue to do so. Here's Wootton, saved again by Everson. Deja vu, and this will seal it if Dewsbury Hall can bury. Here he comes, shuffled run up, Dewsbury Hall, off the post and in. And there's the win for Leicester.
Yes, a successful evening in the end up against Stockport on Wednesday. I think Danny Simpson enjoyed his co-commentary duties as well for us, making his debut actually on co-commentary. So well done to Danny Simpson there. And he watched not the most entertaining of games in 90 minutes, but the penalty shootout certainly was.
Yeah, I mean, it was all about Daniel Everson, wasn't it, really? That hat-trick of wonderful saves, as you say, as Danny Simpson enjoyed to the max. Incredible, really. I mean, he was almost sort of showing the Stockport players, you know, sort of goading them to go to his right, challenging them, and they accepted the invitation, but wrongly so, didn't they? They're three stupendous saves, low down to his right, particularly the third, as it's been mentioned, but I think all three of them would certainly have been very close to, if not hitting the side netting. You know, what chance you got as a player? You think, I can't do a lot more than that. Okay, you could go slightly higher, slightly lower maybe, but that's the only thing you say, they're all similar heights, but wonderful athleticism from Everson. And he was delighted, rightly so, after the game. And, you know,
that one in particular.
Yeah, it's wonderful save. It's basically the form he was in. If he went the right way, you weren't scoring, almost, and you know, cuts the odds right down, doesn't it? And he staked a little claim, hasn't he, to be at least recognised and considered for you know, a starting place in the first 11 in a Premier League game. Danny Ward obviously holds that position at the moment, but it's good that there's competition. But yeah, I thought Leicester were, I was going to say slovenly, that's too extreme a word, but I thought they were a little bit slow-paced in the first half, etc. And Stockport made it difficult. They upped the ante the longer the game went on, and more likely Leicester looked to score, take the lead, and if they did, they'd probably go and extend that and certainly see themselves through. But ultimately, they prevailed. But it was, it wasn't the most enthusing of games, was it? I don't think. I think that's fair to say. It needed the likes of Madison and Dewsbury Hall in particular, Castagna to a level, to come on and sort of change the tempo of the game. And Leicester looked a lot more threatening then, but you'd like to think with the personnel that Leicester had out there that they could have done that in the earlier stages of the games. But all's well that ends well. Yeah,
the man who scored the winning penalty in that game for the Foxes was substitute Kiernan Dewsbury Hall, and I sat down with him at Seagrave after that game to look ahead to the game with Chelsea today. And we're speaking ahead of the game against Chelsea, of course, that trip to Stamford Bridge. What's the mood like in camp? Are you looking forward to that one?
Yeah, it's a big game for us against tough opposition. Trying to get the first 3 points of the season. Yeah, everyone in the dressing room's looking forward to it. We watched their game last week, seeing bits that we can exploit, and we're working hard on the training pitch trying to do that. So. Yeah, we're going there with full confidence and we're going to try our best to try and get our first 3 points.
Yeah, I guess you've probably looked at that game, as you said, the Leeds United game, and how well Leeds played in that one, and you know then that you can potentially do similar things to Chelsea, hopefully.
Yeah, of course. We know they're a good team, but we also know that they have got bits that you can exploit. So we've been working hard, looking at clips on how to do that and trying to implement our own style. We know they're probably going to improve after the game. It's been a tough loss for them, so they're going to come back fighting, but that's where we need to show our resilience and be able to cope with that at their stadium, because that's what you have to do. You have to go to the big teams and try and put on a good performance, so that's what we're going to try and do.
We're speaking as well after the Stockport County penalty shootout victory. You scored the decisive spot kick, of course, in that one. What's that done to the group? As you said, no wins in the league yet, but that hopefully has galvanised the group a little bit.
Yeah, look, you always want to win games, and winning games breeds confidence. So to get through in the end was nice. It's a good feeling, and we're just going to try and take that now into the Chelsea game. We had good moments in the game the other night where it felt like it just wasn't going for us, but we know if we keep putting ourselves in that position, then the goals are going to drop. And it was nice to get a clean sheet the other night, and hopefully keep that defensive solidarity up. So we'll take them little bits going into the game.
I imagine there is an incredible amount of hunger in the group at training every single day to hopefully put things right at the start of this season, particularly in the Premier League.
100%. As I've said in all pre-season, we had a great pre-season. Everybody was fit, strong, raring to go, and yeah, we haven't had the best results in the league so far. We've put ourselves in the good position to get them results, but we, for one reason or another, haven't finished the job. So we know we can get in that position, and then it's about, when we're ahead, just being relentless and not taking our foot off the gas. So we know what we need to do, we know what we need to improve on, and I feel like if we get that right, then we can go on a good run.
Just finally, on a personal note, how have you found your game at the start of this season? As you said, you had a great pre-season yourself. There was that brilliant goal against Brentford as well. Where is your game right now?
Yeah, I've been happy with how I've done. As I said, I scored a nice goal, but still early doors. I feel like there's a lot to come. Still things I want to improve on and want to keep adding to my game. I feel like there's a long way to go, and I'm just getting started. It's going to get better for me and for the team. So it's just about sticking in there, being resilient, and yeah, I know the good times are going to come.
That's Kiernan Dewsbury-Hall there speaking ahead of this game with Chelsea today. As you referenced a little bit earlier, Jerry, obviously he's confident, isn't he? And the group clearly know that it's not been the best start to the season, and they want to put that right, particularly today away at a place like Chelsea.
Yeah, I think when you analyse all the games, Leicester actually haven't played that bad, and in the two home games, taking the lead, and that's probably where, you know, the problems have arisen from when actually they've gone in front. But the general play overall has been good. So and especially that man there, you know, he's been right at the heart of it, of all the good things that have happened in regards to the beginning of this season. So yeah, you know, and again, you heard him in his interview. It's all about, they kept a clean sheet against Stockport. Okay, League Two opposition, but you've got to start somewhere, and they were the next team in line for Leicester to play. So they've done the job. The defenders have kept the clean sheet. So you have to build on that and move forward with that. And hopefully that'll galvanise the players today at what is going to be a really difficult game for them. But you know, again, I listened to Matt on Tuesday night after the game. I was a bit more, not doom and gloom, but I wasn't as, you know, maybe as positive as Matt was in regards to, you know, going here today and getting a good result. And I think, you know, that we should bear that in mind, that it's not out of the realms of the, you know, a possibility for Leicester to do that.
Yeah, we'll be talking about Chelsea in about 5 or 10 minutes' time, particularly, and obviously they're coming off the back of a poor result last weekend as well, away at Leeds United. So Leicester know that there's a chance to go there and hurt Chelsea hopefully today.
Yeah, of course. I mean, you go there with an element of belief, don't you? It's not worth making the journey otherwise. But it's you know, you look at Leicester's team. It's a difficult time. Like I say, Maddison's missing and other big players there, and it's causing a sort of a little bit of a conundrum or a problem for Brendan Rodgers. You know, what formation to play. It looks a little bit disjointed, and results haven't gone well. But you know, strength in adversity and all that. And Leicester have shown it many times before, and no better time than now. And I think the players can't be allowed to, and I'm sure they won't, you know, feel sorry for themselves a little bit because of the different things that are going on at the moment. But they've got to go and show that resolve, that resilience that Keenan Dewsbury Hall was talking about there, and not just apply words, you know, go and put it into motion, and collectively as well. And they do that, as Leeds showed last week, even against the likes of Chelsea. You give yourself a decent chance. Go down there and, you know, don't shirk the challenge, because if you go down there sort of meekly, Chelsea are well capable of turning you over. But no, listen, it's a great occasion as a player. I mean, not reminiscing about our time, but going to Stamford Bridge, a proper football stadium, the history of Chelsea, especially over recent years as well. You know, the supporters are right there on top of you. It's a wonderful atmosphere, wonderful stadium and pitch and all that. And to be part of it is an honour. And we used to go down and give it our utmost. Didn't always work because they were a quality outfit back then as well. Similar sort of scenario now. Leicester have got to go up there, sort of no holds barred sort of thing, and go up there and embrace that challenge that lays ahead, like Tag says.
Yeah, one of those players, Jerry, that you know will certainly embrace it. He won't go down meekly, as Matt was saying, is the man we had on screen earlier, Keenan Dewsbury Hall. And you look at Leicester's midfields this year, they've had Dewsbury Hall with Ndidi and Tielemans. Then last week it was just Ndidi and Dewsbury Hall with Maddison as well. Today it's Samare, Tielemans, Dewsbury Hall. The one man that's been in every single one of those is Keenan Dewsbury Hall, and goals like this against Brentford is the reason why.
Yeah, I think his all-round game he's a driving force for the team, isn't he? Every time he's either in possession of the ball or defensively, then, you know, he's a driving force. He's always trying to drive the team forward. So that is a major plus. And then, as you say, obviously adding this strike to his armoury, which was obviously something that he spoke about himself, is adding goals to his game. So then he becomes a vital cog in the machine for Leicester City. So, you know, he deserves to be a mainstay of the starting 11 at the minute.
Yeah, and there he is warming up, of course, down at Stamford Bridge. He'll be coming up against a Chelsea midfield today of Jorginho in there alongside Conor Gallagher. Let's take a closer look at today's hosts then, Chelsea, with Simon Johnson from The Athletic and also their manager, Thomas Tuchel. Things at Stamford Bridge aren't as rosy at the start of this new season as Chelsea would have hoped for. A win, a draw and a defeat in their opening 3 games against Everton, Spurs and Leeds sees the London side occupy a spot in the bottom half of the table. And ahead of this game against the Foxes, they'll be without their manager in the dugout.
And the win comes from the Tottenham game where my mood in general was very good and I was very happy. Of course, we were disappointed and still are disappointed with the result. Also with the way with the influence we had to this result and how we influenced it in the wrong way this game. There are several things we can do better, need to do better. But it's not the moment to lose our head. It's not the moment to lose our mood. It's not the moment to get moody, angry, and carry that around for too long.
You get a feeling of frustration from Thomas Tuchel, which I suppose we saw, in certain terms after the Tottenham game with the scenes that happened there with Antonio Conte. He's of course now got a touchline ban for the Leicester game. And there's an element of pressure's too strong a word, but clearly 4 points out of 9 tells part of the story. But this is a run of form which is sort of almost carried on from last season, the back end of last season, where Chelsea had a poor run. So that their actual points tally from their last 13 league games is only 19 points. This isn't just the start to this season. It feels very much like they've carried on from where they left off.
Surprisingly, Chelsea have only found the net 3 times in their opening 3 games, coming from somewhat unlikely figures: Reece James, Jorginho and Kalidou Koulibaly. Thomas Tuchel will be hoping for a first goal in Chelsea blue for Raheem Sterling, who scored twice against Leicester last season at the Etihad.
There have been flashes. We've seen flashes, but I think he's kind of caught up in this general malaise in Chelsea's attack. And of course, he's still learning how to sort of adapt to a new system. He's actually been playing. The positions rotate quite a bit in that three, and sometimes you see him quite a lot down the middle. But there have been moments of quality. He should have scored in the opening minute last week against Leeds. The one chance he did take, unfortunately, he was offside. But I still think once Chelsea get going, he will come good. He will deliver his consistent run of stats of assists and goals that he brought at Man City.
That's Simon Johnson and Thomas Tuchel there speaking ahead of the game today. How much of an impact, Jerry, do you think it will be not having their manager on the touchline today? He said obviously he'll be in the dressing room as normal. He can still do the team talk, but he just won't be on the side of the pitch.
Yeah, I think it's important as a manager that you get the final word anyway before the players go out onto the pitch. So the team talk will be important. Will it sway the result in Leicester's favour that much? If both teams are, playing well, I don't really know, to be honest, Dan. But obviously, coming off the back of that performance and that result last week is a result and a performance that everyone involved with Chelsea wouldn't have expected. And I think he actually appealed the touchline ban as well, and that was rejected. So that sort of tells you a little bit of how important he felt that he had to be on the sideline, because he appealed the touchline ban unsuccessfully. So yeah, maybe not. We'll have to wait and see. But definitely him being in the dressing room before the game is a plus for Chelsea.
We've got Tony Cottee, who's our co-commentator today, dialed in down at Stamford Bridge. Good afternoon to you, Tony. And firstly, how is it down there? And secondly, do you think it will make an impact not having Tuchel on the touchline?
Afternoon, Dan, Matt, Tags. Yeah, it's nice to be at Stamford Bridge. I remember being here towards the end of last season. Been listening to the boys. Always, obviously, a tough place to come to. We know that. But conditions are great, Dan. Very sort of muggy down here. Sort of probably 75 degrees in the old school money, as they say. Pitch is fantastic. Regards to Tuchel, we'll have to wait and see. I mean, I know one thing. This Chelsea team are going to be smarting from what happened last week. To lose away at Leeds, I think it was a result that none of us expected. So I don't quite know how that's going to pan out in terms of their performance today, but I think it's all about Leicester today and all about showing a desire and an attitude. Everyone knows. I know it's probably a bit early to look at the league table, Dan, but if you do, you can see where you are, exactly what position, and everyone knows connected to Leicester City Football Club, and we all know that Leicester need to come and try and get a result today.
Yeah, there's probably two ways of looking at it, Tony, isn't there, really? Particularly from Chelsea's last couple of results. They were very disappointed that they conceded that last-minute equaliser to Spurs. Obviously, they were very disappointing in that defeat to Leeds. So they'll either bounce back again today, or hopefully, from a Leicester point of view, that run will continue.
Yeah, and that's what you don't know, Dan. You don't know how teams are going to sort of respond to what happened. It was a very, very poor result. There's no doubt about it. You can't get away from it. Losing to Leeds and obviously dropping the points against Spurs as well in the last few minutes. So. But you can't worry about what Chelsea are going to do. I don't think. Yes, they will probably come out all guns blazing. Yes, they'll be looking to prove a point, and their supporters will be behind them. But I think Leicester today, tactically, they've got to be clever. They've got to defend well. They've got to make sure. I think key to it: do not concede an early goal. Because we all know what that means. Normally you get an early goal go in, the heads go down a little bit, the confidence seeps and drains away from you, and Leicester can't afford that to happen. So I think stand up and be counted today, be well organised as a team. Is enough potential going forward in this team to cause Chelsea problems. I've been to the last two games that Leicester have played here, league games, and they've always caused Chelsea problems. That the biggest problem is just conceding those goals. So keep it tight, keep a clean sheet, and then try and eventually take the game to Chelsea as the minutes pass by.
Yeah, there was a defeat and a draw those last two times that Leicester, of course, went down to Stamford Bridge. Let's get a quick recap then of today's team news. We're about 25 minutes away from kick-off down at Stamford Bridge. Starting from a Leicester City point of view, they make 3 changes from the side that lost to Southampton last week. Danny Ward is in goal, James Justin, Evans, Amati and Castagna make up the back 4. Samara, Dewsbury Hall and Tielemans in midfield, with Barnes and Pratt, we think, either side of Jamie Vardy. From a Chelsea point of view, they make 1 change from that defeat to Leeds United a week ago. That is enforced, with Kalidou Koulibaly picking up a red card in that one. So they line up with Mendy in goal, Chalobah, the man that's come in, Silva and James, Cucurella and Loftus-Cheek, the 2 wing-backs, Gallagher and Jorginho in midfield, with Sterling, Havertz and Mason Mount. A final point, Matt, on Chelsea before we hear from Brendan Rodgers, particularly from a forwards point of view. They'll be interchangeable, Havertz, Sterling and Mount, but they've been disappointing going forward. I think that's fair to say this season so far, and a lack of goals has been a little bit of an issue for them.
Yeah, and as Simon said on the report there from Chelsea, even the back end of last season, things haven't clicked how Tuchel would have liked in an attacking sense and in general at times. There's a quality outfit, quality individuals right throughout the team there, but at the same time, I don't think Leicester will be that fearful, respectful of course, but it could be more of a difficult task. On paper, you look at in the forward line. Werner has left. I know he had a mixed time, but he was a threat. Something to look out for, that's for sure. And of course, the front 3 players are amongst others, but it's not Lukaku at his best, at his rampant best. He can intimidate opposition defences. He's not about there. And then you look throughout the team as well. Koulibaly not available. Chalobah fine replacement, but it's not Michael. It's not Rudiger level, is it? He's departed. On the right wing back today is
Loftus-Cheek.
Loftus-Cheek. I knew it was a double barrel. I was going to say Hudson-Odoi. So Loftus-Cheek there. That's not his natural position. Maybe Kante's injured. Colin Gallagher, good player, whatever. But he's not N'Golo Kante. All of a sudden you're looking at little chinks there in their armour maybe, and thinking, Tuchel not there on the sideline. All these little bits. If you want to take a positive part out of the situation, you can sort of not convince yourself, but buoy yourself with that and think, after the defeat last week, there's a reason why they got defeated against Leeds. What's to stop it happening again? It's probably the best time you could want to play Chelsea. Fine outfit that they are, but they have to be resilient, very much so, as Tony said, because you've got to be on top of your game, very tight, mistakes minimal, then you give yourself a chance.
Yep, they're Matt Elliott's thoughts then on today's host. Let's hear from Brendan Rodgers. He's also been speaking about Chelsea.
No, it's always a tough game. You're playing against a top team. They showed in their last home game against Tottenham. They're a very good side, technically good players, and have that ambition and motivation to want to win. So and they'll look to bounce back from their last game against Leeds. So yeah, we anticipate a tough game, but we're looking forward to it.
And still looking for that first win in the league. How important could that first 3 points be? And have you done anything different in training this week? Well,
it's a matter of time. I think that what we've shown in certainly 2 of the 3 league games, Brentford and the Southampton game, that we mustn't stop. I think that was the message. Played very well for certain periods of the game, but you can't stop in the Premier League. You got to keep working. You got to keep concentrating, and it's reinforcing a lot of work of when we're good, but also increasing the intensity of our game, which is important.
And just a week to go until the transfer window closing. Are you expecting a few outgoings and hopefully a few incomings?
Hopefully that can be the case. Yeah, but be really good for the team, and to be able to do that, to improve the squad is always important. I think that that is key for us. But everyone knows the situation, and until that changes, we will work with what we have.
what do you put the lack of opportunities or the lack of real chances down to? Is it simply lack of creativity between certain players?
It's always about the team. I think it's about the collective. We, like you say, at Arsenal, we scored 2 and maybe didn't create so much, but I still think we've done enough to win the games. I think that that connection and those relationships improve as the season goes on. I think we've been in position, certainly in 2 of the 3 games, to have won the games, which we should have done. And I think, but it's definitely something that we recognise that in the final third of the pitch we need to speed up our game. It needs to, have that bit more flexibility, a bit more, not be so safe, and take that risk. And so that's something that we've spoken about and we've worked on.
And a final one, Brendan, from me, but on Chelsea this weekend, because of their result last weekend, does that make them a little bit more unpredictable this weekend?
No, I think what you'll get an ambition to want to put it right. It certainly doesn't make the game any easier. They off the back of a tough game where Leeds played well and got the result, and they'll be wanting to go into their next game, which is our game, and get a positive result. So for us, we know that and expect that challenge. But for us, we go there with a view to look to get our first win. We know we can. We don't have to be the best team in the world to beat the biggest teams, of which we've shown that over our time here. So yeah, we go there with a real commitment and a real focus to get our first win of the season.
That was Brendan Rodgers there, looking ahead to the Chelsea game, hoping Jerry Taggart for the first win of the season. As we edge closer and closer to kick-off, how are you feeling? Still a bit nervous about this one?
Yeah, I am. I don't know which way it's going to go. And, I think Leicester, listening to Brendan, I think Leicester will get an opportunity to quicken the game up in the final third, but I think it'll be a pretty open game in that respect. Because obviously Chelsea will try and take the game to Leicester. And it's all about finding those holes if and when they can reclaim the ball and try and break them down. So I think there'll definitely be opportunities for Leicester to score today. It's whether or not they can keep the back door shut. It's all reliant on that. They've scored in every game they've played in. They've scored 2 more goals than Chelsea in the league. But obviously they've conceded more goals. And so it's pretty obvious where the issues lie for both teams. Chelsea have only scored 3 goals in the league this season in their 3 games, so they've got issues. So does that play into Leicester's hands slightly in a defensive mode? Maybe we'll have to wait and see. There's a lot of there's a big pot and a lot of stuff's been thrown into it before this game today, so it'll be interesting to see how the game pans out.
Yeah, final thoughts from you, Matt. Same question, really. How do you see it going?
I can see a real competitive game. I think Leicester have got to really knuckle down. Can't afford to go down there and surrender meekly. And I'm not suggesting they will by any stretch of imagination, but it's a big challenge. It's a wonderful occasion. Huge club, Chelsea, aren't they? Especially in the last couple of decades or so. Go there and relish it. And Dewsbury Hall had a spot-on right attitude there in his interview, and you could tell it was genuine as well. He's looking forward to it. He wants to go and challenge himself, and Leicester have got to do that collectively. If they do, the more I think about it, the more encouraged I am, to be honest. Who knows what's going to actually occur, but I think Leicester have got a lot of reasons to have belief in themselves today, not just falsely. I think it's a big occasion for Dennis Pratt today. It'd be interesting to see exactly how he's employed tactically and positional sense-wise, but he needs to come to the fore, and it's got to happen sooner or later. What a day for it to happen today, and he could be a big influence on how Leicester's fortunes go. But what a challenge, what an occasion. Go there and give it your best.
Thanks to Matt and Jerry for their company. Tony Cottee will be on co-commentary duty, which is coming next here on LCFC TV. As we said at the very, very start of Matchday Live, Leicester have a good record in recent seasons away at Stamford Bridge, including taking a point off them last season thanks to this fantastic James Maddison strike. There's no Maddison today, but can the Foxes repeat that?
Because memories never fade, no matter how long. We'll still remember the moments of excitement and the impressions of Thailand. Amazing Thailand, now even more amazing.
Lamiet is the belief that perfection lies within the details, where the finest ingredients deserve the finest craftsmanship. In every pursuit of perfection, there is passion and perseverance, where attention to detail inspires a masterpiece that's balanced and in harmony. This is the Lamiet philosophy, brewed into every drop of Chang beer. This is the taste of Thai perfection. Chang beer. We brew friendship.
Match day. It doesn't start when the whistle blows. It starts with the lucky pair and the lucky party. It starts with making room for the real special one. And with choosing who's on for 2 goals today. It starts with picking up your mate and everyone he lives with. It starts with the usual in the usual coffee house. Oh, and almost ends there. Don't want to leave those behind, eh? It starts with the walking, with the talking, and with that first glance of home. It starts with the next big thing. No, the next big thing. And maybe with a little nap for the tired one. It starts with a quick flick straight to the same player every week. With a quick tap on the way in, with a quick polish of a friend, and with a quick dash for the pies. It starts with finding a seat, with a deep breath of expectation, and with one last check. Here's to the highs, and to grabbing your share. FBS, always by your side.
Hello, good afternoon everyone, and welcome along to Stamford Bridge, a Premier League meeting of 2 teams who are in much need of a win coming up as Chelsea host Leicester City here in West London. After edging through in the second round of the League Cup in midweek, Leicester are back on the road as they search for their first Premier League win of the season. They were beaten by Southampton at home, a frustrating result, and it was a similar feeling for Chelsea as they were convincing losers as they went down 3-0 at Leeds United 6 days ago. Their only win so far, a 1-0 victory up at Everton on the opening weekend of the season. A chance to upset the locals here today, where Chelsea haven't been too strong recently, winning just 5 times in the Premier League in front of their own fans since last November. Delighted to say alongside me for this one is the former Leicester striker Tony Cottee. Tony, it's another hot, humid, dry day in London. See plenty of the fans in front of us fanning themselves here. The sprinklers are on, no hosepipe ban here in this part of the capital. It's set up for an interesting game between these two sides.
Yeah, good afternoon, James. Good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, looking forward to the game. As you say, it's quite sort of hot and muggy here. Sprinklers are on. The pitch looks, I've got to say, the pitch looks absolutely magnificent, and it's a great arena as well. It's one of the grounds, traditional old grounds. It's not a new ground. It's a lot of history here. They've worked really hard to get the ground into the condition we see it in now, with lots of plans as well, with the takeover going through for Chelsea. I'm sure this ground's going to expand over the next few years, but it's a wonderful ground to play at, James. You know, I've played here many times with my three main clubs, West Ham, Everton and Leicester, of course, and always a difficult place to come to. They've always had a good team, Chelsea, and it's going to be no different today.
Yeah, my research tells me that you played here in a 2-2 draw for Leicester back in 1999. You were 2-0 down, but goals in the last 8 minutes, thanks to Michael Dubry putting into his own goal, and Steve Guppy came back to get a 2-2 draw.
I remember Gups' goal, yeah, really good goal. I think it was a bit of a curler with his right foot, springs to mind with anyone who remembers Gups playing. There wasn't too many goals going in with his right foot, so yeah, I mean, that was a special one for us, and they had a good team, Chelsea, back in the late 90s, and it was, as I say, always a really tough place to come. Even if you got the draw that we did that day, you felt like you got a victory, because it was such a tough place to come to. It's been what you would call a slow start from Chelsea this year, but if Leicester can get anything today, and by anything, a draw today for me is a fantastic result for the club.
In terms of the team news today, starting with Chelsea, just the one change. Kalidou Koulibaly is suspended. Trevor Chalobah comes into the back line for them. Leicester 3 changes. Out go Wilfred Ndidi. He's on the bench alongside Iose Perez. James Maddison not involved at all. Brendan Rodgers hinted that may be the case yesterday. Boubou Soumaré in. Yuri Tielemans and Dennis Praet as well. In terms of the shape of this Leicester team, Praet we've normally seen playing off the front man, whoever that may be, but maybe a more wide position for him today, do you think?
Yeah, it's a difficult one. I mean, it's a question I could probably answer a little bit more once the game kicks off, James. I mean, we have got a fantastic vantage point here. Normally you're sort of almost down at pitch level.
Yeah, normally you get the letterbox view, don't you? But
you do.
Technical issues with the host club today means they put us upstairs, and you almost get that tactical viewpoint, don't you?
You do, and I mean, I love views like this, because you can actually see the runs that players are making. You can see the formation, you can see the tactics, and once the game's kicked off, I'll be able to answer exactly what I think Leicester are going to be doing. Personally speaking, we know Jamie Vardy's going to retain that front central position. We all know that. But in Harvey Barnes and Dennis Praet, you know those two guys are going to work their socks off. I think they will be probably looking to, when Leicester lose the ball, to fill out or fan out into the wide positions, almost make a 4-5-1, leave Jamie down the middle of the pitch, and just make it very difficult for Chelsea to break through against them. And that's the key for me today. I think defensively, Leicester have got to be organised. Don't give anything away. No silly fouls. Don't give away the free kicks. And just whatever formation they're playing. They might play a 4-3-3, but I think when they lose, going forward, definitely, but when they lose the ball, it'd be more like a 4-5-1.
Yeah, already in the Premier League today, Manchester United 1-0 winners at Southampton in the lunchtime game. Bruno Fernandes with the only goal there. Just a few miles down the road from us here, Brentford taking on Everton at the GTEC Community Stadium. Brighton Leeds, a 3 o'clock kick-off on the south coast. Liverpool Bournemouth up at Anfield, and Manchester City taking on Crystal Palace, where the away side have certainly had some joy in recent years. The late game in North London, Arsenal taking on Fulham. What have you made of Chelsea so far? They were bullied off the pitch at Leeds last weekend, weren't they?
Well, I certainly didn't expect the result, James. Yes, Leeds is a difficult place to go to. Did I ever expect it to be 3-0 to Leeds? No, I didn't. Obviously, Koulibaly getting sent off as well towards the end didn't help things. Excuse me, it was just one of those performances, I think. And you can get those performances early in the season where everyone expects you to go there and get the result. And, you know, as I said, this is a very good Chelsea team. They are expected to get results. They're expected to win every game. But it just didn't happen for them last weekend, all of which is a great thing for Leicester, obviously, because we're looking to pick this team to pieces and try and come up with positives and why Leicester can come here and get a result. I think one of the other main things for me, and I'm not a Chelsea fan, but if I was a Chelsea fan, the one thing I'd be really concerned about who is the centre forward at the football club?
Well, that was going to be my point, because, you know, Amati, Evans, two quite old school, rugged, aggressive, in-your-face centre halves, but there's not really a natural number 9 across that Chelsea front line, Sterling, Havertz and Mount.
Well, we're going to see a lot of interchanging, obviously. I mean, Havertz will be the one that obviously starts in that central position. We've seen Sterling play down the middle before. Mason Mount, for me, is not a centre forward. He's a wonderful player, but we will see those front three interchanging. But going forward, for me, that would be a real concern for Chelsea. Lukaku's left the football club. If you're going to push on and get in the top 4, you need a centre forward who scores goals.
Huge banner away to our left-hand side here, which says Deutsch Maestro, and a massive emblem of Thomas Tuchel across the front. But after his red card here against Tottenham a couple of weeks ago, he is not on the bench today. So Chelsea without their boss, looking to bounce back. Leicester, after a first Premier League win of the season, looking to kick on from that victory on penalties against Stockport in the League Cup on Tuesday. The sun is shining, full house here at Stamford Bridge. Chelsea against Leicester coming up in just a few minutes' time. And Leicester in their new away kit this season, all black with a tinge of mint. Chelsea in all blue.
After 8 minutes, you must remember them, James. I'm old enough.
Demolished a box at Christmas. The Premier League anthem going. Let's just remind you of the team news, starting with Chelsea. They've got Mendy in goal, Loftus-Cheek at right wing back, James, Thiago Silva and Chalobah the left-sided centre half, Cucurella the left wing back, Jorginho and Gallagher in central midfield, Sterling and Mount supporting Kai Havertz in attack. For Leicester City, Danny Ward the goalkeeper, Castagna, Amate, Evans and Justin across the back. Now we think this is now their lineup, but we'll see in time. Sumari, Tielemans, Dewsbury Hall in the middle of midfield, Pratt and Barnes in all likelihood supporting Jamie Vardy in attack today. Leicester have taken their full allocation of tickets, 3,000 of the Foxes fans away to our left-hand side. And the players just going through their final preparations here. The Leicester bench today: Daniel Everson, the sub-goalkeeper, Shalasu Inshu, Marco Brighton, Kelechi Iheanacho, Iose Perez, Patson Daka, Papi Mendy, Wilfred Ndidi, who's on the subs bench today, and Luke Thomas, the left back, who is there. Leicester, for the moment at least, still without Ricardo Pereira and Ryan Bertrand, who Brendan Rodgers said in his press conference this week is awaiting surgery on that troublesome knee injury which has kept him out in recent times. Well, the sun is shining. You couldn't really ask for better conditions to play football. Slick pitch it should be as well.
Great time of the season. I think as a player you always enjoy those early games. You're still slightly trying to get to your full match fitness, get to 100%. But you're free from injuries. You might have a few bruises from the last couple of games, but it's a great time of the season, and the conditions, as we've already said, James, are absolutely perfect today.
Not quite warm enough for a drinks break, you wouldn't imagine. Temperature here at the moment in the early to mid-20s. Leicester have won the toss and turned Chelsea around here.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, sometimes you do that. I mean, I think certain teams want to kick a certain way, and perhaps just a little bit of psychology there, and Leicester winning the toss, spin it round, don't let them kick the way they want to kick, and just try and make it a little bit difficult.
The referee for this one today is Paul Tierney. He's the man in the middle. 3 red cards in his last 5 games. Leicester have got to be wary not to annoy him. And they are just waiting for the whistle from the referee here. Chelsea with a bit more vibrancy about them at the moment. New owners, new belief, new players. Leicester looking to come here and upset the odds, as they did in the FA Cup final.
Interesting, James, that they only made the one change, and that was enforced as well, Koulibaly for Chelsea. So, no, Tuchel, and what do you do when you have a result like that? Sometimes you can say, right, 6, 7 changes, they've got a very strong bench. He could have done that. He said to these lads, have another go. It'd be interesting to see how they respond to that defeat last week.
Well, the problem they had was that Leeds were harrying them and harassing them all over the pitch. Do you think Brendan Rodgers can take something from that and maybe set his side up in the same way, or do you think they're not made out to do that kind of thing?
I don't think Leicester operate how Leeds do. They're very intense as we kick off. I mean, Leicester can try and get about them. You can't sit off them too much, but they won't be putting them under as much pressure as Leeds did.
We are underway, as Tony says. Chelsea against Leicester City here in the Premier League. Havertz down the right-hand side. Justin getting back against him. And Soumare returning it to Justin, who tries to work it up the line. It goes off Gallagher, back onto Justin. It's a Chelsea throw on the right. Loftus-Cheek back to Havertz, just outside the Leicester penalty area. James. And Chalobah, who's in the middle of the back line today, and Thiago Silva just to the left. Looks like a 4-2-3-1 at first view, at least, for Leicester. Soumare and Tielemans sitting, Barnes left, Pratt right, and Dewsbury Hall in the middle.
Yeah, I think you called it already, James. Yeah, I mean, I mentioned 4-3-3, 4-5-1. Yeah, it's almost sort of going 4-4-1-1 at the moment. I think it's going to be a very varied formation for Leicester, very floating one, and they're just adapting as and when the ball goes out wide, as it has done now.
0-0 here at Stamford Bridge. Early stages here as James picks it up down the right, low